USCIS almost ruined his marriage. Hi, I'm Jim Hacking, immigration lawyer practicing law throughout the United States out of our offices in St. Louis, San Diego, and Washington, D.C. Today we're talking about a former client of mine. His name was Zane, and Zane had applied for U.S. citizenship. Now, the interesting thing about Zane is that he had worked back in his home country, which was Iraq, with U.S. Armed Forces. Zane had served as a translator for many years when the United States was occupying Iraq and trying to bring stability to the region and all those other political things that those in charge said that they were doing in Iraq. Zane worked for many years, and he had letters of recommendation from soldiers who had worked with him. He had saved them from some pretty dicey situations by being able to calm people down with his Arabic tongue and his Arabic language, and he had really done a lot to help United States Armed Forces stay safe in Iraq. Now, he had come to the United States on something called the Special Immigrant Visa, and he also eventually got married. Now, his wife had come to the United States on a visit visa, and by this point, Zane had a green card himself. So Zane had filed for his wife an I-130 petition, which is, I'm a green card holder, I want to keep my wife here. But she had overstayed a visa, and she needed for him to get his citizenship, and he needed to get his citizenship, and his citizenship case had been pending for a really long time. This is when Zane came to me, and Zane said, Jim, I want to hire you to sue USCIS. I've been waiting for my citizenship for 3 years, and I really need to get my citizenship so that I can clean up not just my immigration history, but more importantly, get my wife into proper status, because she was not going to be able to adjust because she'd been out of status, and her status as the spouse of a green card holder did not make her an immediate relative, which meant that if he became a citizen, things were going to get a whole lot better for her. I didn't realize how sad Zane was, and I didn't realize how much pressure this was putting on his marriage. So his wife is here in the United States. She wants to go back home and see her family. She's sort of in no man's land because she doesn't have good status. It's not safe for her to leave. And there's all this pressure coming from the family back in Iraq. And I didn't know any of this before I filed the lawsuit. Now, on the morning of Zane's interview, and the lawsuit worked just as we predicted, we filed the lawsuit against the Baltimore field office, against USCIS, and we asked the judge to compel the Immigration Service to adjudicate, to decide, to finally rule on Zane's N-400 application. And when the USCIS received the lawsuit, they quickly scheduled him for an interview at the Baltimore field office. And he and I showed up that morning, and he was really stressed out. And I got him to talk a little bit. He opened up a little bit, and he said, Jim, you wouldn't understand the pressure that I've been on here. I help the U.S. Armed Forces, and my wife's family back home, they think that I am some kind of a bad person, that this is the reason why I haven't been able to get my citizenship. And he actually, even before we went in, he started to tear up a little bit. So I knew there was a lot of emotion. He said, my wife's really been writing me. She keeps asking me, and her brothers keep asking me, what's wrong with you? What's in your file? Are you some kind of terrorist? Why can't you get your citizenship? What in the heck's going on? So I was a little bit upset about that. And of course I was upset in general because here this man had put his life at risk in Iraq to help U.S. Armed Forces. That's how he got his green card. That's true. But now the USCIS was sitting on his case, as they had many Iraqi translators. I've had tons of Iraqi and Afghan translators have to file lawsuits because USCIS sits on their cases. And it's almost like, well, you were good enough to be put to work helping our Army and our Special Forces and all those people, but you aren't a good enough person to become a U.S. citizen. I found it very, very insulting. So Zane and I went into the interview. Of course, he crushed the naturalization exam. And then we got to the questions all about, have you ever been in the military and all this stuff. And the officer had looked through the file. He'd clearly read through the file, and he understood the file. And he got Zane to open up a little bit about his time in Iraq. After we got through all the questions, something amazing happened. The officer got up from behind the desk, and he went around and he shook Zane's hand, and he thanked him for helping U.S. Armed Forces stay safe in Iraq. And Zane started crying. I teared up. It was a very emotional scene, and it surprised me very much. I was very happy that this USCIS officer recognized what Zane had done for U.S. Armed Forces, and it touched my heart. And when we went outside after Zane had been approved for citizenship, he just started bawling. He was crying his eyes out. And then he told me again about how much pressure his wife and her family have been putting on him. So we were able to get Zane his citizenship, and just a little bit later, we were able to get his wife that green card. So everything worked out in the end, but it goes to show you that sometimes USCIS puts a ton of pressure on relationships and marriages, and delays are one of their greatest tools in putting pressure on relationships. Now, I'm not saying they do that on purpose every time. I do think they do it sometimes on purpose. And we've seen cases where they just sit on a green card application wondering if the marriage will fall apart. So I think that is one of the tricks in their toolbox. I don't know if that was at play here, but it certainly had the real world effect of screwing up Zane and his wife's marriage for many years until we were able to file that lawsuit and help him out. So these are the kinds of things we do. This is the magic we do. This is what we love to do. We love to sue USCIS for people like Zane and his wife who really need some action from an agency that just wants to sit on its hands and do nothing. If you would like to file a lawsuit, or if you have questions, or if you have a case like Zane's, give us a call, 314-961-8200. You can email us, info@hackingimmigrationlaw.com. If you are just looking for free information, we have our YouTube channel. You can subscribe to that so that you get updated whenever we make a new video like this one. You can join our free Facebook group, which is called Immigrant Home. And you can also subscribe to either of those places so that whenever we make a new video or whenever we go live on our Immigration Answer Show, which is 3 or 4 times a week, you'll be alerted. You'll get a little pop-up on your phone. It'll let you know that we're going live. And if you have an immigration question, you can ask me that for free. Thanks a lot and have a great day.